Which one is it? And
We're
there
back.
we are. We are back. Hey, welcome into the Ryan Ripken Show. Happy Tuesday. We're back for a jam-packed weekend. As you just saw, if you're watching on YouTube, we sat down with Cedric Mullins just before the show, and we have a lot of clips from the Orioles outfitter, but that's not the only thing we got going on today, as we are out at Merritt Clubs here in Towson. The pool's getting ready to open up, and I'm really daring to go down the slides in the future here in a little bit. But I digress. That's a whole different topic. You guys want to talk about some baseball. Cedric Mullins gives insights to what's been going on here the last week. It's been one hell of a weekend in Baltimore. And then former bench coach and big league manager Freddy Gonzalez will join us at 3 p.m. And then former Orioles manager, you got to go back a little bit, Dave Trembley, also going to join the show and talk about what it's like trying to become an interim manager, what Tony Manzolino is going to have to deal with, and really just what it's like when your back's against the wall. And then we got some other notes. There's a couple clips that obviously continue to circulate. We want to go around Major League Baseball, Zach, but it's Baltimore Orioles are the topic around Major League Baseball because of what's transpired. Also, we're monitoring when Mike Elias is speaking to the media as well. Hey, Zach.
Yeah.
Welcome to Merritt Clubs.
Yeah, it feels good to be out here for an outdoor show. It looks good. It feels great out here. Feels a lot better than how the Orioles season's been going, that's for sure. But loving the weather, loving being outside, and excited to be here.
Yeah, you know what? They are getting everything set up, and I actually did a bar class this morning. So you should have seen me try to tuck, worked on a pulse, but you're going to see the rest of it in a little bit here when it comes to what we got going on in Merritt Club. It's only the tip of the iceberg. The pool's opening up this Saturday at 11, or I think it's 10 a.m. And on the next 2 days, it's 11 a.m. So it's going to be a busy, busy time. And I cannot wait. And honestly, I just like being outside, dude. I love the outdoors, and at Merritt Clubs here, all of their pools are going to open up here over, I guess it is Memorial Day weekend. Shirts and pants, man.
Yeah, it is crazy that we're already sitting here. It feels like we're just in football season now, and then it was just opening day. Now it's Memorial Day weekend coming up. I mean, summer's officially in full swing starting next weekend. This is fun. This is fun. I'm really enjoying this weather. And
I might work on my base tan here in a little bit, but I digress. We'll wait a little bit for that. But for Merritt Clubs right now, they have another offer. If you sign up for the gym right now, you can get the second month free if you show up 12 times for the first month.
Ooh.
Stop traffic here.
Stop traffic
here. And they are offering day passes. The summer gets really busy, but you will see on the ticker below where you guys can find the code WHAMMY. And I know no more 2-week membership. It's because the pools get busy. And I promise you, though, you can do a whole lot of things. And hell, come take classes with Zach and I as we continue to figure some things out. And like we're trying to figure out the camera right now. Is it getting a little bit better? Hopefully it's getting a little bit better for the group. And we have a lot to talk about here. But shout out Merritt Clubs. I'm a little terrified when we put out the video for what I did during bar class. One, I think I did a pretty good job. But two, if you haven't done bar class, it is not easy. It is not easy. The core gets firing. But let's get into this whole baseball discussion because we're going to have Freddy Gonzalez joining us here in about 15 minutes. But I did just talk to Cedric Mullins, Cedi, the vet of this team. And there's a lot of questions we had to talk about with him, right? We had to ask him what's been going on. So let's play a multitude of clips here from Cedi. First one being here, let's get the elephant out of the room. What's been going on? Or at least the thing that was on the top of my mind, Zach. Let's play that clip. Here we go. Slide should I go down first? The red or the blue?
I think you need to warm yourself up. I'd go with red first, and then the blue looks like it has a nice spiral going down. That's the follow-up. That's follow. Get loose, get your feet wet, literally, when you get off, and then enjoy the big ride.
So, yeah, that was my most important question. What about you guys? In all seriousness, though, we had to try to keep it light. It has been brutal in Baltimore. Now I'm going to play the rest of the clip of Cedric talking about, oh, hey now, are we opening this back up? Let there be sun. Screw it. Well, here's the clip from Cedric Mullins, though, talking about then what the couple days right after Brandon Hyde was relieved of his duties, and we'll react on the other side.
It has not gone the way I think anybody thought it would so far. And I know that that's a rough stretch. I mean, I remember coming in to talk to you, I'd say 2 or 3 weeks ago. And, you guys were fighting, and then this homestand happened, and obviously, Brandon Hyde, Tim Cousins, relieved of the duties. For those that don't understand, we know that this doesn't surprise you, what we talked about. This isn't a surprise. It's the business. But can you talk about kind of the impact on the human element of what that's like? Because you spent a lot of time with those guys.
Yeah. They signed to the team in 2018. Their first year was 2019. I was a part of that team, and I think I'm the only person left that was a part of that team. So there's a lot of history there. There's a relationship that's built because you have to develop that relationship between player and manager, player coach to, have success. There's got to be some cohesiveness that goes throughout the dugout. And that was something that we had. It was been through the struggle, for me to be around when the team was struggling year in and year out. I was standing right next to him. Just one of those things where, like you said, it's part of the business. These things happen. The most unexpected turn of events for this season. But you keep pushing, keep grinding, and you have no choice.
So I wanted to try to get the human element there because, look, Cedric Mullins, like you just heard, he had been with this team with Brandon Hyde and Tim Cousins since they came to Baltimore prior to the start of the 2019 season. And so Cedric Mullins has been through everything with those guys. So that's his connection. But then you're looking at the ball club there where they felt, Zach, that this was something, if they had gone out and played better, right, those guys keep their jobs. And they don't look at it as, all right, well, Brandon Hyde and Tim Cousins, they're the reason why we're losing these games.
Yeah, I mean, at the basis of all of it, it's true. If the Orioles players, we can blame Brandon Hyde, you can, call him the scapegoat, whatever you want to refer to him as. If the Orioles go out there and the players, maybe 1 or 2 more situations, they come up, with a win. Maybe they snag a, pitcher goes a little bit further in the game here, goes a little further there, something like that. Maybe you don't blow the lead late. You're looking at a different opportunity for Baltimore. And the biggest thing, I think, is you probably aren't firing Brandon Hyde if this team's hovering around 500.
Yeah, let's just be honest. Let's just go one more step further. Brandon Hyde probably wouldn't have been fired if the Orioles had won a playoff series.
Yeah.
You would have dealt with what's going on because you could go, hey, they've done it in the playoffs. Really bad luck. We've seen this team have success in the big moments. But because they haven't done that, and then because of how this season has gone so far, you make a change. Yeah. And so for Cedric, it was an interesting conversation to have for so many different reasons here. I think another clip that I think we should play here, and we're going to put out the whole interview with Cedric after, but for our Ryan Ripken show group here, you guys get to see the insights first. So we appreciate each and every one of you. And again, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. We do this live every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right here on YouTube and X, and occasionally right here at Merritt Clubs here in Towson. We're eventually going to get to the Canton one when they're ready to rock and roll again. And it's going to be a blast. And you guys can come take a class with me. When I move, you move, Zach.
Just like that.
And just like that, your boy was moving this morning. But how about another quote from Cedric Mullins here? I think this one might resonate a lot with the fans, but also gives you an idea of what Cedric has come from, not only from the sense of how much he has failed and how much adversity he has dealt with as a player. And this is why I love him so much. But but specifically then he understands where fans are coming from. So let me play that clip for you guys now.
And no offense, Ed. I mean, that's a good thing because I remember you rising up from it. So you know what it's like to fail and come back. What do you think would be your words of wisdom here as you guys try to at least for the younger guys or anyone that wants to know how to deal with failure?
Yeah, I think for me, it's the hardest part was trying to find the positive, throughout the failure because it just kept stacking, kept stacking. And if you have any glimmer of hope within you, there is something that you have to do, which is continuing to not only control the controllables, things that you can control, how you play, how hard you play, continuing to be smart, continuing to pick guys up. And then you have to turn around and try to find the positive within the failure. So back in 2021, like you said, we, I think it was a 19 straight game losing streak on the road. And we had to face that immediately after breaking our losing streak, period. Like there was a normal losing streak, both home and away. And then when we finally cracked that one, we had to face the away losing streak. And reflecting on that, I'm like, sometimes it's about how you lose, not just the loss itself. So being able to pick out a positive through the losses, if we battle back, that's a huge component of winning. You got to be able to do that. So just showing signs of life was good. Just continuing to push towards getting that win. And we're continuing to do that. It's at the end of the day, uh, the fans want us to win. And I completely understand and respect that. I want to win. I feel that when we go into a game every single day. It's unfortunate for us that we have to be more process oriented through this, knowing that we want the results.
So if you want a little bit more context, I talked to Cedric about the 2021 season. We're back. I'm unmuted, right? We're good?
Yeah, we're here.
So the context for the story, 2021, the Orioles were woof. They were rough year for the squad. And Cedric on that team, they lost a lot. And in that case, Steve Wilkerson was our teammate. And you guys can remember Steve Wilkerson, the primetime closer for the Baltimore Orioles, right? With that big save.
Also a pretty damn good catch in Fenway going over the wall
for Stevie, right? So Stevie went a full month from going from AAA to the bigs. He didn't win for a month because we were on a bender of a losing streak at Norfolk and they were on a bender of a losing streak up there in the big leagues. But Cedric, he talked about that. Hey, a 19-game losing streak, a 13-game losing streak, and you're sitting there going, damn, that is a lot of failure constantly. And it hardens you, it makes you more aware, and it makes you understand how to deal with it. And it's hard. No one likes to lose, Zach.
No.
Losing sucks. It is one of the worst things that you can do in anything, sports, life, whatever it is, when you don't think that you can actually, not going to say that winning's everything, but losing sticks with you. When you don't accomplish what you want, it bothers the hell out of you. And at the end, saying, I feel for the fans. We want to win. We want to win for you guys. But he also, that last part when he's saying, I got to be process oriented, Zach.
Yeah.
It means they can't jump to too many extremes. They can address it. They can go after each other and say, hey, we got to be better. Mm-hmm. But they still have 116 games to go in the year, and they have to keep showing up even if things aren't going right.
Yeah, and I think, I do not think it is a coincidence that the two guys, if you kind of look at, I'll even say three. The three guys this season that have kind of been the mainstays, the guys that have gotten the job done the most offensively and been the most consistent offensively for the Orioles, I don't think it's a coincidence that Cedric Mullins has dealt with failure before. Lots of it.
Yep.
Ryan O'Hearn has dealt with failure before and lots of it. And then Ramon Laureano, who is a veteran. He has been there. He has been on very bad teams. He's been on very good teams. Been there, done that. I don't think it's a coincidence that the guys that seem to be handling it the best are the ones who have been kicked in the stomach multiple times through their career. They've dealt with this. Cedric Mullins has played so poorly. They didn't send him to single or triple A. They sent him down even further. He had to completely get rid of half of his swing, one total side. Ryan O'Hearn came on the show and talked about it. He's like, finally felt good getting a chance in Baltimore. He's like, I'm on the golf course. I see Mike Elias is calling me. I'm like, awesome. He's going to welcome me to the team. First words are, hey, Ryan, we're going to have to DFA you. Boom. Awesome start.
Welcome to Baltimore.
Yep, doesn't make the team out of camp, has to work for it. And now he's probably your most reliable player offensively, maybe besides Cedric, who's got 30 RBIs already. I mean, Cedric Mullins is, it sucks. The guys I feel for are the Seddies, the Jackson Holidays, who are putting on incredible seasons, but it's not getting talked about.
10 jacks, 30 ribbies for Sedi. And the point there, when Sed talks, he stays the course, right? But you're right. A lot of these guys on the team have not gone through this. And let's just call a spade a spade. When you're behind 7 runs or 6 runs after the first couple innings, I don't care how good your offense is, you're going to be beaten down. That's not a winning formula. Yeah. The Orioles so far this month have only won 1 game when they've scored over 5 runs. And they've done that 3 or 4 times, I believe. And they've won 1 of those games. Yeah. Then they have other games where they've scored 3 or less multiple times, right? And that even more than multiple times, right? They're not playing fundamentally connected baseball. But for Cedric, the thing is, all right, when you go through the struggles, and this is what got him through it, what positive can I take away from the game? And even off the air when we talked, he said about how can I focus on, am I really in a rut, or did that guy actually have good stuff today? What could I work on, right? And Zach, like, this is the intricacies of players, but this is why Cedric is so valuable to not just the Orioles, wherever he ends up, and I hope it's in Baltimore for a while. He loves Baltimore. He embraces the culture in the city here. So again, that interview is going to be out here in the next hour or two. I got to talk to Brad when we're putting that out there, but I think Birdland, you'll get an appreciation of where his thought process is, and they're not throwing in the towel, but we all recognize that the Orioles might not get going. They might still be a middle of the pack team. They might be a below average team the rest of the way. We don't know, but a guy like Cedric Mullins, he's going to show up each day. He's going to battle through the tough times. And here's the other part of the business. Said he's trying to figure out where he's going to be upcoming. He hopes it's going to be Baltimore, but there's a chance it could be elsewhere. And that is the reality of how it is. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We are live right here at Merritt Clubs in Towson. And we're live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 2:30 to 4:30-ish. Just moving and grooving and having a good old time here. I can't tell you how great it feels to just be outside. Yeah. And maybe just because of the negativity you feel in the Baltimore sports landscape right now, that, you know what, maybe this is a little bit of it's motivational Tuesday. Just go take a walk for a little bit. The sun's just shining.
Take a
shining down. You kidding me? I think our next guest told me he's trying to get his golf game going. I think Freddie's telling me he's got to work on his golf game when he hops on here. But I can't wait to ask Freddie a few questions. And we got a lot more material, other conversations that we're going to show you. Foul Territory, Jim Bowden was on there talking about his opinions on what needs to happen in regards to maybe roster construction. And then there were some other former general managers, Dan O'Dowd, Tom Verducci, baseball writer, talking about what's gone right, what's gone wrong, their opinions here. So we got a whole lot left on the schedule here as we enjoy this wonderful Tuesday. I can't believe it's this beautiful and it's not like 90 degrees, Zach. It
feels fantastic.
3 p.m. We're a week away from Memorial Day. Fantastic. And you know what? You should go get outside. And I think our next guest coming on, I think if I'm not mistaken, he's going to make sure he's working on a little bit of his golf game. But in the meantime, he's going to come and bother us, or at least grace us with his presence here. Let's bring on former big league manager and bench coach for the Baltimore Orioles, Mr. Freddy Gonzalez. Freddy.
Hey, Ryan, how are you?
I'm good, man. We're hanging by the pool today. What a day.
What a day. It's I went out earlier for a walk and it's like I had a double hoodie on. It's I was 55, 56 degrees up here in Pennsylvania, but it's getting warmer again. So, but hey, can't complain because I've been up here in the summertime. It gets hot really quickly here. So,
yeah.
let's just enjoy it right now, right?
Yeah, you got to enjoy it. I mean, so what are we working on with the golf game, by the way? What's the focus?
Everything. I work on everything. It's one of the most frustrating sports I've ever been part of, and I've been doing it now about 30 years. And you get good at one thing or average. I don't think I've ever been good at anything in golf, and then the entire putting goes down the drain. Hence, I have looking in the basement right now. I have like 6 putters down here in the basement because it can't be me, Ryan. It's got to be the putter. You know what I mean?
Hey, it's always the putter's fault, or for me, it's the wedge, the 3 wood, the 5 iron, the driver,
The whole bag.
The whole bag's a problem for me, Freddie. So, hey,
but
when
you know
you're
what?
down here, yeah, go ahead.
You only need one shot, right? And then you'll read back the next day. It's like you made birdie on 17. It's like, you know what? I'm back.
I'm back. That's like the same, but it's similar with baseball and golf, where hey, baseball takes one swing until someone throws 98 right by you, then you're second guessing everything once again. But golf, yeah, you could be 100 over, and then man, I got that one birdie. You count the birdies. I forget who. Dan Orlovsky told us that you count the birdies. You don't count all the double bogeys and all the bad shots. All we're thinking about the good. But speaking of, you talk about golf and how hard it is. What can be more challenging or frustrating then? Is it golf or when you got to deal with being in a funk in baseball, Freddie? Seeing with that. And could you even – so I had Cedric on. And also, he says hello, by the way, and it hopes you're doing well. And I had Cedric explain the human element of when you're in the locker room when everything happens, and the human element of what it's like. But from your perspective, when things aren't going right and you're sitting in there and it's hitting you right in the face, can you speak to that on not just the X's and O's, wins and losses, but what you are battling with internally as manager and player?
It's the hardest thing and the darnest thing that you could experience as a manager, as a coach, and that's everything. Is the great Bobby Cox said it is like when you're winning, you feel like you're never going to lose a game. When you got one of those great winning streaks, and he goes, and when you're losing, you feel like you're never ever going to win. Never going to win a game. So, when you're winning, you never feel like you're going to lose a game, and when you're losing, you never feel like you're going to win a game. And it's hard, and it's hard to do. It's hard to put your finger on it. It's not a magic pill. It's not a rah-rah win one for the Gipper speech. I think the more you lose, the more people in this game try to do so much more. And then just, and it's so easy to say, boys, just relax, just relax and play the game that we've known how to play since we were, in diapers. But it's hard. It's harder when you're going through it. And there's only one way to get out of it is just keep playing. And lucky for us that in our game we play every day. Can you imagine the equivalent of losing 5 or 6 in a row in baseball to the NFL? That's like a 3-week losing series, losing streak, and you got those poor guys. That's 3 weeks worth. Of losing. And we go through it with just 5 or 6 games. So we've been through it. We've all been through it. They know how to get out of it. And it just takes a little bit of teamwork and just do whatever you could do. For example, yesterday, didn't watch the whole game. Said hits a home run to tie the game. 9th inning, down 1. Get the bunt down. You know what I mean? Get the bunt down. And when you're losing, and I don't even know who was hitting at the time. I was just flipping through channel, not trying to wake up the wife or I was trying to figure out what the score was. Just get the bunt down. You get the bunt down there, next guy gets a base hit or Cedric steals a base before the bunt, gets to the third, and then the fly ball by Rushman or scores a run and the game is tied. But when you're not playing good baseball, you don't get the bunt run down, and then you don't get to run it and you lose the game.
It's situational execution, right, Freddie? It's, the simple thing. And I talked to Craig Biggio recently. Every Sunday I release it with, one of the guys been around the game for a long time, some of the legends. And his words were, hey, even though there's a lot of, analytics or other factors that are exciting or maybe draw attention to the game for many which ways, at the end of the day, it's still see the ball, hit the ball, catch the ball, and run. If you do that better than the other team, you're usually going to win the games. And for Baltimore, at least here, I mean, if they're not pitching, they're not hit. Or if they're pitching, they're not hitting. If they're hitting, they're not pitching well enough. Or last night, you're right in a close game. You've done enough good things, but you don't have that situational execution. And then the other team cashes in and you lose. I mean, just from your standpoint, just now that you're removed from the situation, what do you think's been one of the hardest things for this team? Has it been obviously the injuries add up? Obviously, there's expectations that rise, and the offense has been not what they've expected. How would you categorize in this for what is I think people wouldn't be shocked if they said the Orioles were off to a slow start, but I think people are really surprised with where it's gotten to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no question. It was a slow start 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. Now it's not. Now it's like not a good anything, right? You're in the end of May and you're 15, 60 games below 500. For me, just watching from afar, not watching in, but you see the numbers and I get on the radio and host every once in a while I'll get on a radio show and they give you all the numbers. It's the pitching, they're and lack of or with healthy pitchers, guys on the IL, not addressing the pitching situation in the offseason. And now you don't have that guy that's gonna, let's say they win today, right? Who's pitching tomorrow that's gonna get us that second game in a row, right? I don't know the rotation. Or hey, we've lost today and now we got our number one going tomorrow and he's gonna win and we're not gonna lose 3 or 4 in a row. And they don't have that. They don't have that those guys on the roster, or even in the minor leagues, right? From what I saw, and I'm a year removed, I don't know how close some of those kids that were in A-ball and AA are to the big leagues, but the pitching is everything. It's the only, my father and you're probably your grandfather and your dad. You go to the ballpark, right? Nobody asks you, hey, Freddie, who's hitting third today? They're always the first thing they ask, hey, who's pitching today? What's the matchup? Right? That's how important that position is. And the Orioles didn't address it. They got some guys hurt. Guys are coming back from injury. Well, you know what? Guess what? When those guys come back from injury, Ryan, it might be a little too late. It might be a little too late right now, right?
Yeah.
But it's as far as winning, I think the team is talented enough offensively, and I think it's just a matter of just winning a couple in a row, or 2 or 3 or 4 in a row. But I don't know if they have the pitching enough to sustain that. You know what I mean? And
I get it. It's very. I mean, they're what, Zach? It's the second worst team ERA in baseball, behind the Colorado Rockies. And even with you guys, Freddie, in 23, I the one thing I try to reiterate as well, when you guys fell behind, the bullpen then kept you in the game, and then you were able to make a comeback. But it wasn't 6-0, 7-0. And for an offense, that deflates you. You're sitting there going, damn, we got to try to climb out of this. Then you try doing too much. You try to get it all back at once, but you can't.
Right. It's, and you're absolutely right. That year, what was it, 23? We won games. We won 95 games, Ryan, I think. And it was
101, Freddie. You guys
101 I'm sorry, 101 in 93 and 95 last year. And it's like you never felt like you blew anybody out. You always felt like Batista had to pitch 5 times a week, or some of those guys. And Hyder did a unbelievable job, trying to keep those guys fresh as much as you can. But we play so many 1-run games or 2-run games because your offense never was able to put up a big number where you could put your second unit out of the bullpen in, to call it that, for lack of a different term, your first unit is the guys when you're winning games. You're winning games when they're close. Then your second unit is, all right, we could pitch this guy a couple of innings because we got a 7-run lead. He could throw the 8th and 9th. I don't think we ever had that luxury. But there's plenty of talent there, and I've gotten to a point where I'm trying to defend these young men, and they're young, and I'm like, well, you know what? They're not young anymore. Some of these guys are going on their 3rd year. Some of the guys are going on their 4th year. If you look at the average of major league careers, it's 5, right? 5.5 of guys that play the big leagues, and hell, some of you guys are going your 3rd and 4th year. So it's not young. It's let's and I'm saying let's because I still kind of being the last team that I coached and still got a little black and orange in you and some red here in the last couple of days. But I pull for those guys. I pull for Gunnar Henderson and Rush and Cedric and it's got to come from within, right? It's got to come from within. It's got to come from that team that they run out there. It's not the coaching staff. It's not the manager that's got fired. It's not the new manager that came in or is coming in. It's those players and just go play the game, boys, and do the little things right and do the fundamentals correctly. And you can't put a winning streak together if you can't win one. You can't win the first one. So see what happens.
Yeah, the big thing that I like to tell people, Freddie, is when things happen, right? You can say roster construction, you don't have enough pitching, you don't have enough of what you need. And, right now in the offseason for the Orioles, of who you signed, not all of them are playing out to what you hope them to be. You're Charlie Morton, rough start. Kyle Gibson came and went, unfortunately, right? They DFA'd and released him here. But the players at the end of the day, with who you have, you got to go out there and execute to the best of your abilities. And at some point for the guys, and I know this, and the guys in the clubhouse, they're sitting there when Hyder got fired, Freddie, going, damn, what could I have done better? What could we have done better? Because it's not all on Brandon Hyde. Yeah, him and Cuz, Hyde's the one running the ship, Freddie, right? Like, we understand that. He's the guy that's the leader in there. But as we've seen also, you make a move, it doesn't change the fundamental problems that you still have to address. And that is you got to play better as a unit, and maybe to close this up, Freddie, because I always like to remind people, this is a business and industry. Even you had it down when you were managing, when everything was going well, you were the best thing since sliced bread, right? You were probably, they loved you down there, down in Atlanta. But when things don't go right, people want to go to criticize. What's something that you could say then about Hyde and Cuz that you think people should know about how great of coaches that they are? And right now, this is an unfortunate circumstance, but this is the reality of the business.
It is the reality of business, and I've spoken to Cuz. I spoke to Cuz this morning, about a couple hours ago, and I keep in touch with Hyder. I think I've called him or texted him since Saturday a couple of times just to check on him because I know I've been there, done that, and been fired twice, and it's you going through all the emotions and what people don't know about these two guys. They left it on in that clubhouse every single day. Whether you win in our game, you win, and it's the celebration is short lived because the next night either you got to release somebody or the next night somebody's coming. You gotta, make a move, and then you got another game. So it's the celebration is short lived when you win games in the big leagues, and it's hard to win games in the big leagues. But these two gentlemen are good people, and I told them both. I said, listen, this is not going to tell you how bad of a person you are or how great you're. This is not it is what it is. It's baseball. You sign the dotted line, and you're managing, and people above you make decisions, right, wrong, or indifference. Everybody's got a boss, but it's not going to define you as a person or as a father. This is what we do as a business. This is not who we are, right? Yeah. And I check on them, and I told them, I said, listen, I'm going to check on you every other day for about 10 days, and I'm going to then leave you alone, because I've been there and done that, all the roller coaster of getting fired, and I'm sure Hyder is on the couch or taking walks and thinking about, well, should I have done this or should I have done that? And no, you did everything you can. You put your team in a position to win games, and it didn't work out for all the reasons you said, whether it was a lack of roster construction, injuries, guys that are pressing, not good enough, but whatever it is, he did the best he could with the roster that Mike has given him this year.
Yep, and that's just the nature of the beast. It's not just, to recap for everyone, it's not one specific person. There's so many intricacies that go into a team having struggles, and that's why it's a team. And I'm glad you got some of the best perspective out there, Freddie. I hope I get to see you back in a dugout here in the future. I'd love to see you manage again, but for the meantime, I know you're staying busy. Where should people, if they're looking to find you a little bit more? You talked about your radio show. I know you're helping MLB, but where can people keep tabs on you?
Well, you know what? I'm on the radio. I'll do a, no pun intended, I pinch hit every once in a while for the MLB radio show. Like I'm doing a pinch hit, on Saturday, right? So I don't have a regular radio show. They'll call me up and they'll say, Freddie, what are you available? And I'm like, yeah. What else am I going to do? Yeah, I'm in there for 3 hours. And you know what? You do such a great job, Ryan. I don't know how you feel prior going on air, but I get so much anxiety for a day and a half before I go on air because I don't want to say something stupid. I don't want to piss somebody off. I want to be prepared. So it is so much anxiety that those 3 hours, I tell my wife, why am I doing this to myself? But it's the same thing as a baseball, right? You prepare, you get the butterflies, you do everything. So yeah, I'm doing that. I'm doing some work for Major League Baseball as an observer, keep an eye on the game, and doing that. Hey, I want to get a shout out, if I may.
Go ahead.
Because the Johns Hopkins baseball team.
Yeah.
I was coaching D3 with their sinus, and we finished 20-20, and we played them the last weekend of the season. And those guys are good, Rip. I don't know if you've seen them or not. I know they're in town, I think next week or this weekend, playing some kind of regional or something. I think. But and I know Coach Babb I think it's his last year. But I don't know if you have a chance to see them play or not. And they're right behind you there in Johns Hopkins in that little field there. But those guys are really a good team. It's a fun team to watch. Yeah,
I got to go and check them out. They've been drawing a buzz. And also, too, by the way, D3 ball, there's some good players, man. There's some good players. And actually, that field is fantastic. It was one of my last games I played in high school was at Johns Hopkins back there. Yeah. But hey, Freddie, I appreciate it. Go ahead.
They bang, but
they bang. They can drive the ball.
Oh yeah, they bang. They're not playing, get hit by a pitch and bunt and that kind of stuff. They're looking to hit the ball out of that ballpark there.
Hey, do some damage, Freddie. Do some damage. Hey, Freddie, I could talk to you for hours, but you need to go work on your game. So for golf game, when you come down here, we can get around. We can talk some shop, talk some more baseball, because you are one of the best to talk with, and you are great on the air, by the way.
Well,
just do it. That's the thing. Just do it.
Thank you.
And that's you can't tell someone maybe to screw off like you would in the dugout, but you know what I mean. It's a little different.
Hey, as long as you know Dad's membership numbers, we'll go out in one of those golf courses and just sign his name or sign his membership number on him.
Hey, deal. Hey, it's put it on the account.
Yeah,
be
put
good.
it on the account. Yeah.
Maybe we'll invite him one time.
Yeah.
All right, Freddie. Appreciate you. Enjoy your lesson. And appreciate your time as always. Freddy Gonzalez, everybody. He is the best. He is the best. And I knew he'd be a great guy to talk to about everything because it's always perspective. When people that have been around the game for such a long time and they understand what the ins and outs are to it. And if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button, by the way. You just heard Freddy Gonzalez, former big league manager and previously bench coach for the Baltimore Orioles. You like and subscribe. It helps push out the good word to everyone here. And we're live today from Merritt Clubs up in Towson, Maryland, just hanging out. Beautiful day. Get some sun. Taking a deep breath as we go into some deep conversations around baseball. And I know a lot of people in Baltimore, Zach, are still hurting because of where the team is at. And I get it. I understand. And I hope that people hear what Freddie's talking about. And there's so many intricacies that go into all of this.
Yeah.
And also, I like the point of him saying you're trying to teach young men how to be big leaguers, but also it gets to a point where they're not young men anymore. And I think we're starting to see that. And the last thing I'll say, Zach, pitching is the number one most important thing.
Yeah.
It keeps you sane for the majority of stuff. And I could listen to Freddie talk about ball all day.
I could, and kind of what you talked about with, and Freddie said, they're not young kids anymore. Some of these guys are in the third, fourth year playing Major League Baseball. And actually, the guy who kind of brought that up to us the first time is Mike Elias when we had him on the show. He said the young team excuse is gone. They were a young team in 23. They were to start last year. They were, still trying to build and everything. You've had your success. You've been punched in the mouth. Now it's all about going out there and finding a way to win ball games. I mean, we've said it multiple times. No one in the league feels bad for you with injuries. No one. And then when it comes to just, the quote unquote young team now, there are a lot of young teams out there, and there are teams that are younger and performing better and teams with less talent that are performing better. So you got to throw the young excuse out. And like you said, it's all about pitching. And I think right now with the way that they're pitching, you fall down 6-7-0 to start a game. It doesn't matter how good of players you have on offense. Mentally, it can take you out of a ball game. I think that's what they're struggling with.
Oh, right yeah. I mean, I could tell you how many times for me playing in the minors and we're getting our teeth kicked in and it's 8-9-0 in the second or third. And you're going, damn, can we get back in this? And then the game keeps going and you're losing by more. And you're like, well, we're grinding because your career's on the line in the minor leagues, right? Like you're going out there and playing and you got to go and perform and you're trying to get back in the game. But imagine then how deflating that is when more than likely you're not going to come back and more than likely you're going to be facing another hiccup, but you keep grinding. And for the Orioles, though, unfortunately, they've had a lot of those moments where it's like, whammy, you're down by a bajillion. You're going shirts and pants, like, here we are again. And that's not they won't even say that out loud. I'm telling you as a player, you can sit there at first base. We make a pitching change in the second inning. And you just let out a few expletives, maybe a shit and maybe a F-bomb here and there. And then you go, okay, let's try to do something. But it brings down a team. It does. And for the Orioles, they haven't had the pitching right. And then you heard Freddie talk about if you're not pitching well and we got to execute. What do I talk about? The second most important thing, if we're not going to say pitching, it's situational execution. And when the Orioles have had close games, they used to win those games. They're not winning those games anymore.
No, and I think the biggest thing is it's not only that they're not winning those games, they're finding creative ways to lose those games. I mean, it feels like it's a different way every night. It's not a, hey, the other team went out there and they outperformed us. Okay, they were the better team. All right. A lot of times it is, Gregory Soto airmailing the ball into center field. A missed cutoff man that adds another run to the other team, a walk that then steals a base and ends up scoring on a base hit. Like, it just feels like they're right there and then they lose. I mean, last night was one of those games where it just encapsulated everything about this season. You fall behind, you take the lead early, Ramon Laureano 1-0. Then all of a sudden you find yourself down 4-1 and you're sitting there going, shit. I don't know if
here we are
again. Here we are again. Who steps up to the plate? Cedric Mullins, big Earl Weaver special 3-run bomb to tie the game. And it felt like that's the game you got to win. Mm-hmm. You have to, you come back, you give that massive Fredi home run. Then Fredi in the ninth, they need to tie it. Obviously you're down now 5-4, gets the walk, messed up the Carlson misses up the bunt, getting the bunt down. All of a sudden, Fredi has to steal second. Now Fredi has twice. Not only tie the game at bat before, he's now put them in position to tie the game again. I'm not upset with the Adley or Jackson fly out. Both were very well hit balls to the opposite field that just right at the left fielder.
Yeah.
But what Fredi just talked about, if you steal a base, then let the bunt down, that Adley sack turns into a sack fly, and now all of a sudden it's a 5-5 game. So it feels like it's the little things that are slipping away from them situationally that is costing them these ball games.
I mean, there's so many different intricacies, and this is why it's almost like you take for granted. And I wonder at times too, when you do it so much, it reminds you that you can do it. But then the humbling part of this game, and anything in life, by the way, here, philosophical ride coming at you here as we are chilling by the pool here at Merritt Club in Towson. Think about this. When you do something, there's this instant gratification. Like, yes, I accomplished this. Sometimes it could take you 3 months to accomplish something. Or in one case, you win one game or one season where everything goes your way. And I mentioned that before. In 2023, nothing went wrong for the Orioles at all until the postseason. It was a fairy tale type year. You're down 11 runs. Oh, they come back. Down to your last strike, you come back. Every close situation, they executed. But here's the thing. Once you get complacent with that, we've done this before, it's going to happen, that's where you get in trouble. There's a difference here. I hope you guys, I'm staring right at the camera right here. Hope you guys can understand what I'm saying. There's a difference between knowing you can do something and then still going out to do it and prove it over and over and over again. In the big leagues, no one's giving you what you've done in the past. They say, hey, tough shit, do it now. Do it now. I don't care what you did 2 years ago or last year. And that's what I'm saying. In baseball and in sports and in life, you have to constantly keep proving yourself. And for this Baltimore Orioles team, they have been told they have talent. Well, go prove that talent can win these games. Right now, it's a struggle. It's hard, and I feel for the fans. Everyone does.
I mean, Cedric even brought it up. He's like, these fans don't want to lose. He respects that. He understands that. He understands that aspect of the game. And, I mean, the biggest thing I took away from us talking to our conversation with Seti earlier today is I don't think the physical side of baseball is what's holding this team back in the slightest. I think right now it's a mental thing of they've got to get something back on track. They have to start working on something. I love what he said where he's like, it sucks the situation we're in because you have to be process oriented and you have to focus on the process, on what you're doing, and you can't look at the results. You have to trust the process. You have to go through it all and understand that, hey, we're working to put some wins together. You can't expect, okay, we got better here, here, and here. Oh, but we lost. Okay, it was a wasted day. It is the hardest part mentally right now is they all have to figure it out while not being focused on the scoreboard, while not being focused on the win column. If it happens, it happens, but they're struggling with this aspect right now of you got to find ways to get back on track and understanding that, hey, even if you lost, if you got better, if you understood things a little bit better, if you feel the confidence getting back a little bit more, that is at least individually that can help these guys.
No doubt about it. No doubt about. You like that accent right there?
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe you did
something.
Hey, but you know what? It's true. And it's also true that we're having a great day here at Merritt Clubs in Towson. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. And we got a whole heck of a lot still planned for the rest of the show. We're still going to talk to former Orioles manager and was an interim manager, Dave Trembley. He's going to join us at the top of the hour. And we are going to talk more about, hey, Zach had a good week of bets last week. So when we go up to Hollywood Casino here for our next bets, you don't have the clip together to post out what you did last week, right?
No, we don't.
Yeah, you have that for last? Or for, Oh, well, we're going to wait on that. He'll send him in because maybe it's a good time to segue into this because there's two things before I get into Matt's comment here about talking about Elias and the failures. Well, I want to point out two of our 13-month members here. Joe, I saw it earlier, $10 if Bali belly flops in the pool.
When it's open, you got it. You got it. I'll go belly flop easy.
I think I really want to go down the slide. I also, do they have I was looking for a dive board. I wanted to really swan dive.
Oh, really? Yeah. So it's in the frame.
Right there. Oh, that's a tiny dive. That's a tiny. Right in there. Gotcha.
It's in frame.
Gotcha. You know what? I'm curious who would be the best belly flopper. I don't think it would be me. Don't think it would be me. You know, you see, I hit my core, so I'm getting more
Uh-huh.
toned. See that bar class I took this morning, which was elite. And also, Fat O's fan, win or lose, O's fan for life. Fat O's fan, we appreciate you. You kind of scare the hell out of me, though, when you do the damn AI photos of me and Zach. Other than that, it's, everything else is great. We appreciate our community. If you guys want to be a part of our community, hit that subscribe button. You can be a Rips Good Kid or join the Holy Shirts and Pants Club. And I know for the Shirts and Pants members, I'm trying to get all things together here and individually for each and every one of you that wanted shirts and also some other perks and prizes that we're working on. And also you can thank the Iron Rooster on some ideas that would be coming your way. So we appreciate them. We are cooking tomorrow with Kyle and the Iron Rooster. And at the end of the show, maybe we explain who our guest is tomorrow, Zach. That's definitely one that will that people will enjoy talking to. So let's get into this Mike Elias conversation right here. You said, Matt, how about discussing Elias and his failures? Well, today on MLB Network, Tom Verducci and Dan O'Dowd, former general manager in Major League Baseball there, a long time with Cleveland specifically.
Also a friend of the program.
Friend of the show, friend of the program. We interviewed him in Dallas for the winter meetings. But they were talking about this Orioles start here and the roster construction. So let's play that video first. I got it, Zach. That video first on what their assessment is of this ball club.
Did concern, panic, doom for the Orioles. I thought you and John Heyman were a tad early on doom. Turns out you may have been right on time. What's your overall take on the O's?
Yeah, I didn't think they were a great team to begin with. I didn't think they built in depth. I know that they've had a ton of injuries, right? But every team goes through injuries. So you have to prepare for that with depth. I didn't think pitching-wise especially, they had enough to cover any kind of injuries, and it's been worst-case scenario. They're a lot worse than I thought, though. I mean, some of their young players haven't progressed. Adley Rutschman over the last calendar year is about a 220 hit and does not look the same. And the game that really clinched the end for Brandon Hyde, and it's certainly not his fault, they played so poorly, I think the front office decided they had to make a change. That Friday night game here, watch this play here. Runner's running here. Watch Rutschman. He's jogging after the ball, and Holiday at second base gives up on the play. So Nunez, the runner, sees the second baseman vacate the bag. Look.
I put the wrong video in. Let's try it from the top here because I wasn't going to do that play. It was the wrong video with MLB Network. Let me try this again. Keel Cinnamon. Oh, here it is. Now let's try it one more time.
Your overall take on the O's?
Yeah, I didn't think they were a great team to begin with. I didn't think they built in depth. I know that they've had a ton of injuries, right? But every team goes through injuries. So you have to prepare for that with depth. I didn't think pitching-wise especially, they had enough to cover any kind of injuries, and it's been worst-case scenario. They're a lot worse than I thought, though. I mean, some of their young players haven't progressed. Adley Rutschman over the last calendar year is about a 220 hit and does not look the same.
Where are you, Dan? Because, right, there's a lot with the front office, again, given their drafting and developing, that it was all there 2 years ago, won 101 games, won the East. Now it's not happening. Why?
Guys, I think there's a huge gap and difference between collecting talent and then figuring out how to win with that talent at the major league level. I've been perplexed on why you wouldn't trade players you don't commit to playing at the big league level. I think losing Santander was the only player for me that was not part of this year's group. Adam knows that culture, environment is very fragile in a big league clubhouse. It doesn't look like there's any leadership now internally on that club. There's a lot to unpack here, BK, and Mike and Sid, who are really brilliant guys. They've got to figure out why the regression is taking place. I mean, I picked them to win because I thought their young core was going to continue to get better.
Right.
And it's kind of gone completely backwards. And so I'd be very, very concerned right now what's going on in Baltimore in the bigger picture.
There we are. Hey, now. Are we back?
Yeah, we're back.
Oh, we're so back. So the comments right there from both Tom and then Dan O'Dowd, where his question was, Tom was the roster construction we've talked about with the pitching side. And look, we knew that was going to be a weakness of the team. So I wanted to clarify that. Like, we knew that going in, it was going to be a weakness, but then you didn't think Grayson was going to go down, Eflin was going to go down, and then you were going to have put pressure on Charlie Morton to try to be your 1 or 2 with Tomoyuki Sagano, who has been good.
Yeah.
Who has been good for the team. Dan O'Dowd talking about the perplexion of trying to play your prospects. And I think this is the interesting conversation of what are you going to do with those players? What are you going to do with those guys? And I know everyone's saying with the Kyle Stowers thing. And first off, by the way, no one was thinking this way of Kyle Stowers until Kyle Stowers started playing well to start this year. Kyle Stowers got traded and hit 176 last year in 50 games in Miami. Now, I always believed in Stowie's talent. He was my teammate. He could drive the ball to all parts of the field. You're seeing that, right? And this is the nature of the business too. You're going to make a pick on who you want to focus on and give the reps to. And they said, all right, we're not going to focus on Kyle Stowers, whether that's right or wrong. They chose that and they played guys over him. Okay. That's the obvious. Joey Ortiz got traded because they said, Jordan Westberg, we're giving your opportunities. Sorry, Joey, we're giving Jordan your opportunities. Okay.
Yeah.
The other guys right now where you're in limbo are the ones like Kobe Mayo and Heston Kjerstad. And, they moved Connor Norby. So they made a choice, but there still is a lot of conversations that you need to figure out because there isn't a spot for even Kobe Mayo, but he's still on your roster. He's big league ready to see if he can be a good big league player or not. We don't know. Heston, injury related, I think we would have had an answer on what he was, but the verdict's still out on what he can be, but he's not getting maybe the consistent run all the time given the state of the team. So there are concerns on that. And one thing I want to say with the whole spending the money and part of it, people can be upset, Zach. Let me back this up. People should not be upset and make claims, the Orioles didn't spend money. They did. What you can be upset with is who they spent the money on.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very different circumstance. If they had spent it on Nick Pivetta, where fans probably would have been, you gave $55 million to Nick Pivetta, which the Padres gave to him. Nick Pivetta's pitching really well for San Diego. They gave it to Charlie Morton or Tyler O'Neill with the situations, and you didn't sign back a fan favorite Santander who has been struggling. Tomoyuki Sagano has been the only guy that's been healthy or has produced to what you've needed on this roster. So if you have a problem, it's with who was acquired, but not because they didn't spend money. Just they spent money on the wrong players at this point in time.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with the money is they went up, I think it was like $60 million in payroll this year. The money's being spent. It's like you said, it's where is it being spent? It's who's it being spent on, and it's the quality it's being spent on. Are we giving $8.5 million to Gary Sanchez to be your backup catcher, where it's like, okay, not sure the return on investment. Certainly early on, it's not been great. Tyler O'Neill, okay, you give him a $50 million contract. In the long run, over 3 years, maybe he's not the guy you wanted to, with his injury concerns, with his swing and miss ability, maybe not the guy you wanted to spend that kind of money on. Sugano's been great. 41-year-old Harley Morton has not been. It really just feels like it's not the lack of spending that's, upsetting or the amount they've spent. It's who they're spending it on, because if they would have gone up $60 million in payroll, but that $60 million was with a Nate Eovaldi and maybe you bring back Santander, maybe you go out and get a Teoscar Hernandez, which we were talking about. If you spend $60 million between like I just said, you get Teoscar, you go out, maybe you get a Crochet, you spend the $30 million on Eovaldi. I don't think there are those complaints. It's that thing where it's, hey, cool, you spent the money. The pockets are open. Why did we not spend it on something better? It's like going to the, saying, hey, we spent $120 this weekend. It's like, yeah, you spent $120 at the dollar store. You could have went out there and gotten something nice, but not all spending money is going to be equal, especially in baseball when you see the returns you've gotten already.
For sure. And that's what it comes down to. It's always you can address it moving back. When you look at the big money being spent, Corbin Burns is going to be fine, but we know that story. He wasn't coming back. Max Fried, 8 years. It's a lot of years to give to a pitcher, and he had his eyes set more on New York than any other place for the contract that he had. But then everyone else was finding the value of who fit. And that's the part. It's just that the value of who the Orioles went to spend money on haven't panned out. And that's something you can be frustrated on. To close out the Kyle Stowers conversation, that's the business of it, whether or not it was the right move or not to prioritize Kyle. The Orioles decided that they were not going to prioritize Kyle at some point, and then they moved him.
Mm-hmm.
In baseball, you have to make a choice. You have to choose at some point. I think that's the prospects, whether they turn out to be all-stars somewhere else or they stay here and develop and be all-stars here, you got to let them go at some point, and you got to choose who you're going to keep because their value can only be so high after a certain period of time, which we have seen so far. But we got one more clip then, Zach, that continues on with this conversation. And maybe we got to speed it up because it's a little bit later on, where Jim Bowden was on Foul Territory after he talked to Mike Elias about the situations there. But he talks about what he thinks this team should do if he was overlooking it and what the pressure is that's on Mike Elias moving forward. So, Zach, let's play that clip.
I'll give you my opinion here. I'm going to start with this. I text Mike Elias after the news came out about the firing, and I told him that I know it was a difficult decision. I said, I think you did what had to be done. At the same time, I know it's the worst part of the job of being a GM or a president is having to fire the manager or releasing a player. That's the worst part because you're firing a friend, you're firing a family, and although you think the relationship can stay the same afterwards because it's a business decision, it really doesn't. And so the whole process is terrible. That being said, the important thing that I texted him afterwards was it's not about who you fired, it's about who you hire to replace him and the difference and the impact that next person gives. Now, I wasn't aware at the time that he was hiring Tony Mansolini to be the interim manager for the rest of the year. At the time, I did not think that was what they were going to do. So let's talk about when you fire a manager in season, what has to happen. One of two things. Either one, you better win more games with the next manager than you did with the one you have. Or number two, you're making the change because in order to win next year, you've got to make the change now to prepare for it because the approach or the process or the plan or the strategy that is implemented now isn't working and you don't think is going to work. So in this particular case, the Orioles have zero chance of coming back and getting back into this race because they don't have any pitching. You don't have pitching, you can't win. I don't care what your lineup looks like. It's not going to happen. And with the Orioles, you're looking at Corbin Burns is sitting in Arizona. Grayson Rodriguez is on the injured list. They're your two best starters. Charlie Morton's 0-7 with a 7.6 ERA. Kyle Gibson just got designated for assignment with a 16 ERA. And Dean Kramer and Cade Povic's ERAs are north of 5. And they're not going to be able to turn it around with what they have. They're just not. So the key is the new manager going to come in and make a difference? Now, when we heard Mansolini's comments after the game, and by the way, he didn't talk to the media before the game, only after the game, which made no sense. I was shocked when the media said, what was your message to the team? And his response was, I didn't have a message, but I'll have one in the next couple of days, I'm sure. Well, what are you talking about? You don't have a message. You've been there the whole time. You don't have a message of telling the players that you got the manager fired? You're not hitting, you're not pitching, you're not catching the ball, or you don't have a message to say, hey, we're going to change things and this is what we're going to do. That's concerning to me. Now, you asked me what I would do. All right, number one, they don't have players in the right position, right? I mean, Gunnar Henderson should be at third. Jackson Holliday should be at short. Westberg should be at second. They should give Mayo first base and Kerstedt left field and let them play every day. So in November, we know if they can play or not, if they're going to hit or not. It's okay to not platoon at every single position and have all this quote unquote positional flexibility. So I think they need a different approach here. Now, if I were the GM, I would be hiring outside the organization to bring in a different voice, a different approach, a non-biased opinion. And whether that's a proven guy like Skip Schumacher, who won Manager of the Year with the Marlins, or whether it's A.J. Przinsky, who brings that edge that clubhouse could use, to me, you had to bring in somebody outside.
There was Jim Bowden on Foul Territory, and you can find Foul Territory. It's on YouTube. They're on X, Instagram, everywhere. And Jim Bowden has a lot of experience as a former general manager. Now, I don't agree with how the roster construction of your infield should be necessarily, because especially Jordan Westberg is a very good third baseman. I'm good with Jordan being there. Jackson Holiday, Zach, I know it's bothering you. Why would you want to move Jackson off a place where he's finally getting comfortable?
And the kid's finally hot for the first time in his, he's finally putting everything together. He's got, let's throw him across to shortstop again. Let's throw a wrench and everything. I like what he was saying in every part of that, including the roster platooning stuff. I thought he nailed everything about that, except the move Jackson to short, Gunner to third, Westy to second. Just keep it the same. They're doing well right now. Keep that the same. But I agree. If you decide that this season is a wash, maybe we'll say in a month or so from now, what they need to do is give Kobe Mayo first base. Or wherever, you're half DH, you're half first base. Give Kerstead, be like, hey, you got left field, sink or swim. And it's not anything about, we need to see even if it's not about seeing what they have, you need to give these guys consistent playing time, because look at Kyle Stowers. We just talked about it. How incredible has consistent playing time been for him? It's changed everything for him. Let Mayo play. Let Kerstead play. Give them every day at bats. Let them. I don't think it is a coincidence that Jackson Holiday is getting, for the first time in his career, consistent everyday playing time. Even when they feel they need to start Jorge Mateo, they're putting Jorge at short and DHing Gunner. They're not taking Jackson out of the line, but I don't think it's a coincidence that he is now putting on a performance of what we thought he could do. This is what they need to do. Let the young guys play. If you're not going to compete for a World Series this year, if you're sitting down the line, if it's sitting in, August, September, let the guys play. If they fail. That's okay. We watched Jackson Holiday. Everyone's celebrating Jackson Holiday right now. This is not the same Jackson Holiday that I saw come up last year. That was a totally different player, but he learned.
Yeah, and he learned, and he's 21.
Yeah.
He's 21 years old. He is going to be more than fine. It's reps. Now, one thing I want to argue when you talked about was saying, hey, when the Orioles are out of it, or not argue, that I wanted to emphasize, the Orioles were out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying, hey, let guys run it out and let prospects or let ever play. The Orioles going into the season, and last year, they couldn't afford, in their mind, that we're going to let our prospects jump in to play, because you already had those guys that you just appointed. So Westberg proved he was your all-star third baseman. He's staying. Gunner is staying. Cedric and Santander on the team, they were where they were supposed to be. Kyle Stowers, and I applaud for two reasons. Or one, like that he got out of a situation and he blossomed, but it is a lot more, or it's a lot easier to play. Not like the Orioles season in 21 that Cedric had, where you've lost 100 million games. Yeah. That sucks. And maybe the Marlins have to deal with that later on. But going into a season where you're going to start on that team, and the Marlins have zero expectations, that matters. Now with the Orioles going into the season, how magnified was Jackson Holiday when he came up as the number 1 overall pick, as the future on one of the best teams in baseball? A lot of pressure. Kobe Mayo, people are getting on him, and he's had 50 at-bats down his career, but last year came up down the stretch of the playoffs on a very good baseball team that was trying to get out of a struggling time. Now, the one thing I want to at least talk to, and one thing that I think is definitely going to happen in the future, Zach, is there's going to be a philosophical change with the team. Philosophically, if there's a lot of things that Jim was right on, and I agree about saying a voice, but it's not even about bringing a new voice in as a manager. This is internally. You philosophically got to go, all right, what do we need to change from the top down? And yes, you bring in a manager, and I personally think if you're bringing in a veteran, a guy that's been there, and I love Buck Britton, and I love Robinson Trinos, great guys, and Buck was my manager. It's a veteran presence A guy that has been there and experienced personally fits that bill, but someone that's not from inside, which I agree with Jim. But it doesn't matter at all if you bring someone else new in, if you don't change how you're going to conduct things. Analytics are a big part of the game, which I agree with, which I understand. But the fundamentals of the game of baseball have not been good enough for the Baltimore Orioles. That needs more emphasis for them to go out there and compete. Yeah. Yes, go fill out your roster. No doubt about it. You got to get more depth. Pitching. But then fundamentally, defense has had lapses. We talked about this. The fact that we're looking at it going for Gunnar should be the shortstop. Mm-hmm. Why? Gunnar is the most talented infielder that they have. Is he playing the most sound shortstop? No. But he is the guy that's meant to play that position. That's a fundamental thing for me personally. And then fundamentally, when you're looking at the team, executing with bunts, knowing where the cutoff man is, know who's covering second base, knowing what you need to do to get out of an inning, limit damage, limit the opportunities, little things that can go on in a baseball game that have an impact. The Orioles need to figure out that part of it. So I think when we're talking about prospects coming up, they also need to have an expectation of what the hell they're going to do. Mm-hmm. That's one thing that I've noticed. Zach, do you feel better if someone comes to you and says, hey, this is a situation, you're going to come up here, and this is what I want from you. And they tell you out front. Do you like that better or go, hey, good luck?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it feels like a lot of has happened to some of these guys because, with Kobe Mayo, I think he's the perfect example. Top prospect, he's coming up and it's like, okay, here could be the spark the Orioles need. Okay, you're starting tonight. You're not playing the next 3 games, except for in the 9th inning against one of the top closers. You got to come in and pinch hit in a big at bat. It's every single game. It felt like there was something new asked of these guys. They never had a role. And I mean, we've talked to Mark DeRosa about it. He was saying the biggest thing that Bobby Cox, with him was you never went into a season, never drove to the clubhouse to the park not knowing what your role was. You always knew what your role was. You knew what was expected, what the expectation was, and kind of where they expected you to fit into this team. I don't think there's a lot of that right now in Baltimore. I think it's a lot of, okay, we're going to try to figure things out. And when even the manager is trying to figure things out, the front office is trying to figure things out. It's hard for the players to be like, okay, I know what my role is, when the team doesn't know what their roles are.
Yeah, knowing what your role is so important, but also knowing when you're coming up, what's going to be asked of you. Mm-hmm. And knowing what that could be. And a lot of those guys that come up from the top prospects, it wasn't established. Am I going to be a bench guy? Am I going to be called upon to play every day? And that was something that I don't think is a coincidence that Jordan Westberg before the season, I remember Brandon Hyde saying it in spring training in 2024, Jordan's going to play a lot for us. There's the vote of confidence that he's in the lineup. Mm-hmm. But when Jackson comes up or any of the other prospects, Kyle Stowers even said it. I saw him. He was on the Pardon My Take, but we had him on 4 weeks ago. And Stowie was saying he would wait, and he made the team in 24. He made the team out of camp. They say, hey, be ready, and you're going to get your chances. He didn't play for 6 days, right? It's more of knowing what your expectation is going into it. One last story, and we'll get to the super chat. We'll make sure that we have our ducks in a row here as we get ready for Dave Trembley, former Orioles manager back in 2007, replaced Sam Perlazzo. It was the same year when the Rangers put up 30 on the Birds. But the Durham Bulls in 2021, Tampa was a very solid team then, the Braves. And actually, their pitchers in AAA would go to the bigs and have better ERAs in the big leagues than they would in AAA. And I remember looking at them. It was like a well-oiled machine. And you know why? They knew, hey, we are preparing you to be in the exact same role in the bullpen when you get up to the bigs. When you are doing here, this is what we're going to expect for you when we call you up. Mm-hmm. And I wish then for some of the prospects, if they had they pulled them aside and said, hey, I know you're waiting for your opportunities. You might just be the bench guy for us. It's not how we view you. You got to be patient and you got to try to be ready. That's a role that none of them are used to. But that's not the conversation. And then you're going in there, then you're pressing because you know what? Everyone expects you to be this guy that's going to be this grand old talent. And then that expectation isn't fair to them. The results don't happen. And then you're in a situation now where you're questioning yourself and what I can do and what are my abilities. That's personally what I've seen. I'm a big communicator. I want to know what's going on. I want you to tell me good or bad what is happening, and I can live with it, but I have the expectation of how I can prepare myself. And the same thing in baseball, and I know it's the same thing with all of you. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We do this live every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we're live. Look at that. Because people are wondering, where the heck are you again? Yeah, we're at Merit Clubs right now in Towson. Pool is opening up Saturday, 10 a.m. open, 11 a.m. on Sunday and Monday, I believe. And then once the summer kicks off, they're going to start to have the hours during the weekdays more and more open. Ken will be back running hopefully soon. That's one that has the rooftop pool up there, and it's a lot of fun. I did my bar class this year, or this morning. Zach is going to help me. Not help me. Zach's going to prove to me that he can handle a bar spin Pilates class.
We'll see what happens. Maybe we have to put the body to the test. And real fast, I did see a few people have talked about it. Colton Cowser starting his rehab assignment tomorrow in Aberdeen.
The Dean.
I'll actually be up there calling that game, so that'll be a fun time. So Orioles play at 1:05 tomorrow, 1:10, and then tune in after the show for
Kevin and Zach react.
Yeah, Kevin and Zach react, and then some Aberdeen baseball. Iron Birds.
The Birds. Hey, before we have Dave Trembley join us, why don't we take a quick trip up to our friends up at Hollywood Casino and Charlestown Races in West Virginia. Boom, baby. And our friends up at Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races. Hey, I didn't tell you that at the end of June, we're going up for the show, and we might have Mr. National joining us up there.
Oh, Ryan Zimmerman?
Ryan Zimmerman. And we might have another Orioles guest on top of it. But Hollywood Casino at the end of June, we are going to be up there. Cannot wait for what's at store there. And right now they're running a deal with ESPN Bet. And as you guys know, we love our friends at Hollywood Casino. So if I can pull this up in under 2 seconds, watch this. Bam, whammy. You bet $10, you get 100 back in bonus bets. And if you're a new player for ESPN Bet, you get 30 days of ESPN Plus on them, but you got to be 21 or older. If you got a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or Rocco DeSangro. And speaking of making some moves and bets, Zach, you have a little recap of last week.
Yeah, so we got last week's recap before we hop into what we got this week. So let's go on a quick memory lane.
What's our lock?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Sometimes you just gotta go with the obvious stuff. Aaron Judge, 2+ bases.
This is smacked out towards left center. Julio up here.
You know, last night we got robbed.
And look at the camera.
And
look right at the,
tonight
look
we're
at the
bouncing
audience.
back.
Look at right at the audience.
Last
It's
night
going to
we
change.
took an L, but tonight we bounce back. Aaron Judge, 2+ bases. Lock it in.
Did you just quote Big Sean?
This is blasted. Yankees have taken the lead on an absolute.
We're sticking with 2+ bases tonight, but we're going back to old reliable Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman, 2+ bases.
Tries one more time. Left over the plate, and Freeman bangs it into right field. Runner into right center field, and a base hit for Freddie Freeman.
So take us home, Freddie.
So that's 2 straight weeks now of 2 for 3.
2 straight weeks of 2 for 3, and we're starting out with an old friend today. One of the hottest hitters in the National League. We're going 2+ bases. Little Austin Hayes action.
Whoa.
First half, Austin Hayes is a player unlike anything else. 2+ bases tonight, Austin Hayes. Let's get it done.
And Austin Hayes, man, he's been on a little bit of a bender.
Yeah,
for the Birds here.
He is, man, I'll tell you, Austin Hayes has been putting up an incredible season. I think he has like a 9-something OPS. He's batting .330. What's his OPS on the year at the moment? 977 OPS and 88 at bats. He's putting together quite the stretch. I mean, let's be honest. It's one of those things where Austin Hayes has always been a guy that if he's healthy, especially early in the season, he's an all-star. He's one of the best players, especially I think for Baltimore, he's one of those guys that they're missing, on the field, the consistency. So we're going to stick with, we're going to stick with old Austin Hayes tonight.
Yeah. And you know what? 2 for 3. Anyone's talking about it. I take that every single day.
We're positive. We were positive on it. So
being it's a 666 win percentage there as a hitter, if you do that all the time, then we have never seen anything like you if you do that. But if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We do this live every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right here on YouTube and X. Obviously, we have it on our Spotify and Apple. So if you're driving in the car and you got to be careful, don't watch. You can listen to us. We upload it after our live shows. And we've had a great show so far. We are live from Merit Clubs here. The pool's opening in Towson this weekend. I'm really trying to stop myself from going down the slide. I'm an adult, I've been told from now, but I am going to try that out at one point in time. But I think, guys, it's been really great to talk to some great baseball minds. And again, especially the ones that have Orioles connections and also just know the game in and out. And I'm excited. There's our next guest coming on. Haven't talked to him in a little bit. It's been a while, but he is one of the most charismatic and knowledgeable ones. Spent a lot of time and understands his organization well. Let's bring on Dave Trembley. Dave,
man,
can you hear me?
I got you loud and clear.
Hey, how have you? It's been too long. How have you been doing?
I'm fine. I'm in Daytona Beach, Shores, Florida, and summer has hit down here. The weather's nice, and it's a pleasure to join you guys. I'm really excited about catching up.
Yeah, I am too. And you know what, Dave? I always like to start this off with people with the experience around professional baseball. You had a lot of time going through and understanding the minor leagues. Do you have a story or two that sticks out to you throughout all the years?
Well, I could tell you, I think we managed in every league other than the Midwest League and the Cal League. And we took an awful lot of bus rides. But I tell you, one of the highlights of the minor leagues for me was the first year in 1987 in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The Pirates had put a team in there, and it was the first year they'd had professional baseball in about 45 years. We didn't start out real good. Leland was the manager in the big leagues and had a similar path through the minor leagues as I did. And we started the season not very well. We went to Albany, where the Yankees were, and we'd lost 11 in a row, and it wasn't real fun. And we were packing the place at City Island, the big crowds, high expectations. We didn't start out real well. We were 15-25 in the end of May, and Leland called me and asked me how the guys were doing and how I was doing. And I said, well, to be honest with you, I'm not doing real well. And he said, and I'll never forget this, and this was kind of my mantra, even when I got to the big leagues. He said, stick with the fundamentals. Stick with the fundamentals. Keep teaching basic fundamental baseball. And if you do that, it's going to turn around. Well, from that point on, we went 52-28. We ended up making the playoffs, and we won the whole thing in the Eastern League. And it was a testament to teaching and developing young players and showing confidence in them and just being real positive and persistent. And I think that kind of put me in a position to just stay the course my whole career. I got to the big leagues with the Orioles when I was 55 years old and was so appreciative of it. And I think that's kind of where the game should be now. You got to teach young people how to play the game and be real positive with them.
That's what I love about you, Dave. That was your reputation. We're going to get better. We're going to work on the fundamentals. Because at the end of the day, the simple thing of this game, who catches it, who pitches, and who can score runs, who can hit it, that's the simple part of the game. The game's hard, but the messaging is simple. Now, you go out there and you catch, pitch, and hit enough. Hey, you usually are going to win a lot of ball games, and things can go wrong, right? That's the nature of it. And hey, Dave, your definition of a minor league grinder, though, you waited for so long. Did you ever think, going back now, that you would have had that opportunity coming up to be a coach in the big leagues?
No, it really wasn't. My incentive or my goal was to develop young players and give them an opportunity to be as successful as they were. I never told a guy in the minor leagues we were trying to get him to get to the major leagues. I told him we were trying to get them to be the best player they possibly could. And I think that takes time. I think you got to be real patient. And some of the key words that you have to tell players is because, it's a real tough business and you live in doubt as a player a long time. I think you got to tell them, I believe in you, and you got to get them to trust you. And for me, we just kept doing it right. I think your players are your best ally, your worst enemy. And people remember, especially the players, remember how you treat them. And I've always tried to treat the players with respect and dignity and give them every opportunity to succeed and just encourage them to stick with the process. Don't worry about results. Just do things right. And, it paid off for me, and I got an opportunity, and I was very grateful that, Sam Perlazzo brought me up as a coach and then got an opportunity to manage the Orioles in Baltimore. It was just a great experience, great people, and, it sticks in my mind like it was yesterday.
Yeah, the journey of doing it for, the right reasons, not for the end result. And earlier I got to talk to Cedric Mullins, Dave, with the Orioles, and Cedric was one of my teammates when I played together in the minor leagues. And he said, we understand with fans that they want to win. We want to win. And it's hard, and I understand it, but our goal is we have to stay process oriented, even though we want the results. We want to win, but we can't focus on winning. We got to focus on what can we do each pitch, each at bat, and the process of trying to get better. And I know that you had the opportunity to be a manager. And I know that that's not the circumstance you wanted to be under, right? Where it's turmoil and you're being thrusted into a position. And we're seeing that now throughout major leagues. It just happened in Baltimore here with Brandon Hyde. And now Tony Manzolino is being thrusted in. What is that like, first off, for being thrusted into a position? And then what do you think's the biggest challenge when you have to try to be appointed as a, hey, I'm the new voice here for this ball club?
I think you have to be very respectful to the players. The game has been and always will be about players and about fans. And it's never going to change. So I think, in my instance, like what's going on with Tony now and what Brandon's gone through and what just about everybody in baseball has gone through is I think you have to be respectful to the players. The players are very, very, very intuitive. When things aren't going well, they feel it more than anyone. And I think you have to buffer that because they're going to play off of you. And I remember the first meeting that we had with them before we went to San Diego for our first road trip. When I took over for Sam, we were in the clubhouse at Camden, and I told the guys, number one, let's remember the responsibility that we all have. It's on us, really, what has happened here with someone losing their job. And ownership and the GM are looking at the players, and they understand about the fans, and they have to make a move and they have to do something. So we have to be responsible for that. But the other thing I tried to get across to them, and I'm sure Tony's trying to do as well, you're not going to get it back all at once. If you do that, you're going to get in trouble. You got to regroup. Don't change. Go with what brought you to the dance. Stick with the basics. We got to chip away a little bit, a day at a time, almost an inning at a time, a game at a time. Everybody just do your job. Don't try to be the guy that's the hero every night. If you're not a home run hitter, don't go up there and swing in from the fence. If you come in the game in the middle of the game out of the bullpen, do your job and just put some zeros up and keep the score there and give us a chance to get back in the game. So I think you got to be real positive with the guys. I remember we went into San Diego and we lost our first game, and I came in the clubhouse after, and it was like a morgue in there. Everybody was waiting. They were waiting to see what I was going to do. And I came in and I said, fellas, let's turn the TV on. Let's get something to eat. You're all professionals. You guys played hard tonight. And we'll regroup and we'll get them tomorrow. And I think everybody took a deep breath and said, okay, this guy's on our side. The first thing you have to get from the players is trust. They have to know that you're on their side. You're not in it for yourself. And you have to be the guy that's going to basically, be the buffer for the players to the front office and try to get the guys to just eliminate all the distractions that are out there. Stay away from the media. I remember Bobby Cox told me this when I took over. Don't read the newspaper. Stay off the social media. Don't listen to sports radio talk shows. And tell your wife and your girlfriend to do the same, because if you do, it will get in your mind and it will affect the way you play. So I think there's a lot of suggestions that you have to give the guys, but as you well know, the players are so sharp. They're so intuitive. They can feel it. They know it. And I think you have to just steady the ship a little bit and come in and say, hey, let's get back to basics and let's see where we're at.
And you mentioned one thing right there, Dave, and I 100% agree, because you're already in a bad situation. Like you're already there. The team's losing already. And I'm glad you said, hey, let's have a little bit of life in here, Well,
Right.
and then the kind of the motto in my mind is like, hey, we've already been through some bad times here, fellas. Could it get worse? Sure, but let's understand that we're in this together. Trust is the biggest thing with anybody. That's in baseball, that's in life. One thing you did mention, though, was roles and knowing what you are capable of doing as a player. In this day and age, Dave, I've always wondered with, and analytics has a place. And it's not about an analytics conversation here. This is more about knowing what you're capable of.
Mm-hmm.
How important do you think that is with the lineup of understanding, hey, who's your guys that you can get on base? That's our contact guys. Make something happen. And then who's our boppers? Who's our big RBI guys? It sounds like you think that's still an important value for a lineup, is knowing what your role has to be.
Well, it's about the team. I mean, you got to have guys that are going to take pitches, set the table, get on base. And, you count on your guys that are hitting 3, 4, and 5. And hopefully late in the game, they get that 4th or 5th at bat, because early in the game, those other guys have taken some pitches, got on base. The guy that's number 8 or number 9 hitter with 2 outs gets on base with a walk, a bunt, gets hit by a pitch, flares a ball to right field. So now he turns the lineup over. So now in the 8th or 9th inning, when it's close, our best guys, 3, 4, and 5, are getting that 5th at bat, and we'll live and die with that, with those guys up there. You mentioned about the analytics, and I think this is, going back to understanding what you can do. You're not going to hit the ball out of the ballpark all the time. There's a lot of base hits out in right field. Take the ball the other way, run the bases accordingly. You're not going to strike everybody out. Get some ground balls, make the routine play. It's 27 outs. We got a chance to win if we only give 27. If we give them 30, you got to play Earl Weaver baseball and hit a couple 3-run home runs to get back in it. So I think it's really important that guys understand not one guy's going to turn this thing around. We've got guys in the lineup. We got guys out in the pen. Our starting pitcher's got to give us some length. And when you get your opportunity, make the most of it.
I think that's a great messaging of it. It's the team concept and understanding how do you fit in to help this team. And that you don't need everyone to do one role. You need people to fill that role. So then therefore everything can be rolling on firing on all cylinders. I go around and watch a lot of, baseball. I know you have throughout all the years. I still remember a story, Dave. I think Keith Bodie was my hitting coach in the minors. And he talked about Carlos Lee. Carlos Lee, had the stretch of being a very powerful, drive them in guy in the big leagues. And Carlos, I guess, was on rehab assignment, and they asked him, what's your secret to driving runs in? And the story that was told was there's a guy on third base. My mindset is I'm just trying to hit the ball to the shortstop. Everyone's back. I am not going to make this game more complicated for myself. That runner's there. I don't care how I do it. I'm getting them in. And he did that a lot. And obviously he had a lot of balls leave the ballpark too. Talented hitter. So I think that's just a really good conversation that you just got to find what works for the team. And that's why I love talking to you, Dave. And the perspective of it. And you look great. I know it's been a long time. I probably haven't seen you in 10 years, maybe more.
Yeah, you guys coming in the clubhouse. I think it was you.
I know.
You and Flacco. I saw both you guys, and I just so impressed with young people and their purpose in life and people that have a passion for the game. But what you're talking about for me is you got to get the right guys. You got to get people that aren't selfish, that buy into the team. Buy into the team, make productive outs. How many times do you see a guy on third, the infield back, and guys are swinging from their butts and they foul out or they strike out? Hey, hit a ground ball, the second is short, and get that run in, because every run we get, the other team's got to score too. Move runners, go first to third on hits, take some pitches. The Yankees were just notorious for this. They would wear you out and try to get in your bullpen early in the game because they would foul them off. I saw Fried pitch the other night against the Mets, and the Mets fouled off 25 pitches. They got Fried's pitch count up, so at the end of 6, he was over 100 and he was done. And you give yourself a chance. And what that does too, if it's early in the series, you get in the other team's bullpen in the first game, and they might have to use their best guys that first game. And now the third and fourth game, they're not coming back to get you. So it's a chess game, and you got to constantly, I think, sell this to the players. It's a new generation of players now that are coming up with, through travel ball and through the analytics and the launch angle and the spin rate and all that. And, guys move from team to team, and it's about a lot of money. So culture, I think, is a key word. Culture is a really key word. And I think this fits very well into Baltimore. They got great fans there. It's an old school. They love their fans. They love their team, but the fans are real sharp. They can smell it and they can see it. And I remember guys saying, are you playing for the name on the front? Are you playing for the name on the back? And you need guys that are going to play for the team. And if you do that and you get everybody to buy into that, you're gonna be successful in the long run. And I think that's what happened with the Orioles, in the last few years. They didn't have real superstars. They had team players, and they won, and they found a way to win, and they were tough late in the games. They come back and win a lot of close games. So I think it's a mindset, and you just got to get guys all heading in the same direction.
That's the goal. You got to deal with adversity, deal with failure in the sport, and then how can you continue to move together as one? And I hope for the Orioles in this case, it's a rough year. Dave, you went through some rough years, obviously, throughout your entirety of your coaching career in the minors and the majors. Failure is a part of this sport. But I did like that you say culture matters, working for one another matters. And above all, I love this. You got that connection with Baltimore. The city knows and can feel, the style of play. And that's why the city embodies the Orioles. It's that team that everyone still loves. And even though there's a frustration and they haven't had the championship success since 1983, there's so much pride and passion because of what's been instilled for decades and decades here in the region. So before I let you go, you got a couple memories from when you were managing in the big leagues, good, bad, that still stick to you till this day?
Well, I got a lot of them. I remember every game like it was yesterday, but I remember one in particular. We're playing the Red Sox, and I think this still stands as the greatest comeback in Oriole history. We're playing the Red Sox on a Saturday night at home, and we're getting whacked in the fifth, and it starts raining like cats and dogs. I mean, it's raining really hard, and we got a Sunday 1:35 game the next day, And, we're getting beat 9-1. I say, hey, wait a minute. Well, they put the tarp on the field, and after 5, we got 3 outs in the bottom of the 5th. And I didn't know if we were going to play again. And we waited over 2.5 hours. And I remember we came back, and Francona was managing the Red Sox. They had a great team. They had Papelbon and Pedroia and Euclid and Ortiz. They had some really big shooters. I remember Manny Del Carmen came out of the pen. And all of a sudden, in the 6th, I sent up Oscar Salazar with the bases loaded. And Okajima was on the mound. Left-handed pitcher, had this fork ball, a little changeup. And I sent Salazar up there to pinch hit, bases loaded. Boom, he hits a grand slam home run. Now all of a sudden, and in the 7th inning, Jay Payton comes up. Jay Payton comes up in the 7th, and he hits a 3-run homer. Now all of a sudden, it's 9-8. And in the bullpen, a lot of times, and this is a lesson for everybody, the guys in the pen can turn it off. You can turn it off mentally and think, hey, the game's over. Well, now all of a sudden it's 9-8, and they got to get Papelbon up in the 8th because they want to win the game. Well, we came up in the bottom of the 8th, and Brian Roberts at the time was 1 for 32. 1 for 32 at the time. And off Papelbon, batting left-handed, he hit one that hit the chalk behind the third base, and got on. Next guy got on. So we had 2 guys on it. It's 9-8. Markakis comes up and hits a screaming Mimi to left center in front of the bullpen. I think there was a Budweiser sign out there. Both guys scored. It's 10-9. I had George Sherrill as a closer that year. I brought Sherrill in the top of the 9th, and he got him out 1, 2, 3, and we won the game. And after the game, somebody from the Sun asked me, "What you think about that game?" And I said, "What'd you learn from it?" I said, "Well, the key thing is you play all 27 outs and you don't give one away because you never know." And we came back and beat them 10-9 on a Saturday night. And it was the clubhouse, you would have thought we won the World Series. And it was such an educational moment for our players. Don't give one at-bat away. Don't give one pitch away. Do the very best you can all the time because you never know in this game.
Man, that's bringing back some memories for me. We went to the vault there, Dave. I might have to have you come back and bring those memories back because that was an incredible – was that 2009? 2009?
I can remember every game. A lot of people in August, they want to call me in August. And somebody called me a little while ago, a couple of weeks ago, and, somebody got beat, Colorado got beat by an unbelievable score or something. And they always want to remind me of the Texas game, when we got beat 33. And I tell them, I say, hey, you have no idea what that was like.
Hey, Dave, what is that like? What was that like?
There were guys that had career days and never had another hit in the big leagues. Daniel Cabrera was pitching that day, and it was the first game of a doubleheader. And the key thing is that afternoon, they had a big shindig in the warehouse and announced that, I was going to be extended for the next year. And they had a press conference and a nice luncheon. They flew my wife and family up from Florida.
Oh,
and, Leo Mazzoni is my pitching coach, and Cabrera is pitching, and Ron Washington is the manager of Texas. And it's the 5th inning, and Cabrera is just running out of gas. He's running out of gas, and we're getting beat 6-2. And Leo and I look and say, hey, we better go to the pen, bring somebody in. Well, in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, I think Texas scored 8 runs each inning. And I remember in the 9th inning, I had this guy, Paul Shuey, was pitching, and he couldn't get anybody out. And I was going to go out and take him out. And he said, Dave, I'm staying in here. You're not taking me out because you're going to need the pitching for the second game. And he stayed in there, and, we lost 30-3. And after the game, you got to do the press conference in between innings, and somebody from the press comes to me and they say, well, what you think about the game? What are you going to tell your players? And I said, we're going to tell them to have a very short memory. The game's over and we're moving on. And that's all you can do. You got to eat it, and you can't feel sorry for yourself because you well know in this game, as in life, no one's going to feel sorry for you. They're going to, people are going to take their best shot and do whatever they can. But for the most part, my time in Baltimore was the time of my life. I've met the people that have meant so much to me. They're still close friends. Just getting the opportunity to be in Yankee Stadium and looking across on the other side and seeing Joe Torre over there, or managed against Leland, or in spring training, La Russa and all these guys, and getting to Bobby Cox, and just trying to prepare your guys. I had great coaches. We had young players, and it was explained to me very clearly by Mike Flanagan and Jim Duquette, and then Eddie McPhail. Develop the players and get the Oriole way back in line. We took infield before games. We took BP. I remember my wife coming to a Sunday game and wanting to get in early, and the usher wouldn't let her in. Said, "Why are you coming here so early?" And she said, "Well, I want to watch the Orioles take BP." And she says, "The Orioles don't take BP on Sunday games." She says, "They do now. My husband's the manager." And I told our team, I said, "Let me tell you something, fellas. We're going to hit. We're going to hit. We're going to take infield." I remember we were playing one time, and I'd always put the lineups up early and put them in the training room after games on a Saturday, because there was a day game on Sunday, and I wanted the guys that didn't play every day to go in the training room and check the lineup and see if you're playing or not, because I don't want you to be surprised. And after the game, Kevin Millar comes into me and he says, "Hey, I got to talk to you. The guys are a little upset." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he says, "Well, you got it on the board that we're hitting tomorrow at 11:30. No one hits on Sundays after a night game on Saturday." I said, "Let me tell you something. Get the team out there. Get them out there. I'm going to talk to them." I said, "Fellas, you know who's pitching tomorrow against us? We got a stud pitching against us tomorrow. And if I don't take BP and he shoves it right up our butt, that's my responsibility. Now, if we take BP and we get beat, I can live with that and you can live with that." The guys bought into it. I said, "We're going to hit for 20 minutes. Okay, we'll have 3 groups. We'll hit 7 minutes a group. Boom, boom, boom." The guys bought into it. I could go on and on. We just tried to teach basic fundamentals, get the Orioles back to where they're supposed to be, and make it a little bit better for the next guy who came in after me. And I think we did that.
Oh, Dave, this has been a treat catching up with you. It's been an absolute treat. The stories. What I also love is the memory with people that have been involved in the game. I could see it in your eyes. I can see the memory and the moments. You can relive it just like that. And also, your always your reputation and your demeanor was contagious. It was the trust. You talk about trusting and being a guy that players wanted to play for. You were always that. And you always treated this little guy that was running around, not knowing what the heck he was doing, pretty well too. Well, Dave, I'll let you go. I appreciate it. And if you don't mind, I got to bother you some more in the future so we can talk a little bit more about baseball.
Well, it's a real small family. And, I think what makes me feel good is guys like yourself are doing something for the game instead of taking. We're trying to give back and make it a little bit better, and appreciate the opportunities that we had. But more importantly, appreciate where you've come from and understand the history and the tradition. Baltimore is a real special place. The people there are as good as you could ever imagine. They love their team, and the team is very important in that community and in that city. So I think we have an obligation to do everything we can to make sure it gets better.
Awesome, Dave. Thank you. It's a great way to end, but I will bother you soon and catch up. But it was great seeing you, great talking to you, and I look forward to talking to you next time.
I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate you. Thanks a million.
Dave Trembley, everybody. Oh, what a treat. What a treat getting to talk to Dave today. When I found out he was available, amazing. And I told you, I saw your eyes over there. The stories
that that's all. I love the Orioles don't hit on take BP on Sundays. They do now. And that's just, I love what he talked about and everything about, from analytics to you have to have, we talked to Mark DeRosa about Team USA. He was like, hey, toughest part about this is you have pretty much everybody wanting to play for you, but you can't just take the best players. You have to build a team. Guys have to know their roles. Him talking about stories. I love having Millar talk to him and been like, hey, if he comes up and shows up our ass, this is on me. He's like, you guys aren't. He's like, we're taking BP, but we'll take it for 20 minutes. That was a treat.
When you are true to your word as a manager and you're true to your word as a person, the rest will follow.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what Dave did. And that's why the results and the wins, you want to win. Like I no doubt, no one's going to sit there and go, you know what, man, I love losing. No one likes losing, but the process, are you developing players in the minor leagues? That's the goal. In the big leagues, yeah, you got to win, but is there trust built here where you can set a foundation? And during those years too, you know, O's fans, you understand this. And Dave coming into a situation where the Orioles, they were trying to get back. It's a tough time for the Orioles in general because they were trying to get back to that Oriole way.
Yeah.
And that was Dave's goal, get back to it. And then I know it didn't end the way that anyone will hope for Dave, but then just a few years later, things did start to turn around for the team. And you saw that pride, and he's certainly right about the people of Baltimore. They love their baseball here. They love their Orioles. And I know there will be better days, but it's been a fantastic day so far today, Zach. We got a chance to talk to former big league manager and bench coach Freddy Gonzalez. Got to talk with Cedric Mullins earlier in the day, which we played some clips. And for those that were wondering, we will be putting out the Cedric Mullins interview later on. I'm checking the time that we had it already out. I think it's going to be scheduled for 9 p.m. tonight. I think it's going out to everybody. And then finishing up with Dave Trembley there, talking about, you know, one thing I did taking away that I was saying, he talked about so much. We talked about roles and trust and dealing with the adversity. Fundamentals was the first thing you focused on.
Yeah.
And I think when I talked about the Orioles philosophically, what this team has to start focusing on is they need to figure out how to be a more fundamental team. They have the talent. And I know people are saying, well, do they have the talent? No.
They do.
That position player group, they got the talent. They have it. Can you fundamentally go out there and not give away outs? Can you play fundamentally defense? Can you come up in situations and get that runner over, and eventually can you get him in? If you do that and you do it over and over again, and you go out there and you throw the baseball around and the pitching does its part, you're going to win games.
Yeah.
But it starts at the fundamentals of it. Eddie Murray, which we just dropped that interview on Sunday night, and we're going to have more of our clips tomorrow as we continue on with this week. But one of my favorite quotes from Eddie, Zach, was I asked him, what was one of the things that you remember from your minor league days when you played? And Eddie said, you know, the thing that I learned was we were going to catch the ball better than anybody. We were going to catch it. We were going to make the plays. And we found out if we did that over and over and over again, the other team would start to worry that they couldn't make the plays because they knew we weren't going to be the ones to mess up. You catch it, you hit, you run, you do all those things consistently. That's the Oriole way, and that's winning baseball. So we hope to have that back. Again, thank you to all of our guests so far. Shout out Merit Clubs here as we are in Towson. Beautiful day. The pool's opening this Saturday. And if you guys are looking to be a Merit member right now, we had to change it to a day pass, but you see on the ticker there, I have the link in the chat. You use the code RIP25, RIP25, all in one word, all lowercase. And Zach, should we talk about what we have planned for tomorrow?
Yeah, I was just going to say a few people. I know people are talking about different managers, maybe different former Orioles managers, and just what they're up to these days. So,
yeah. So as you guys know, we are Baltimore based and we're from Maryland, and we're going to be talking a lot of baseball in the region, obviously, and around the league. Today was very focused on Baltimore because it is the hot topic of the league right now. Football season rolls around, we'll talk football, but we're so far away from that there. But you know what we're not far away from? In less than 24 hours, Zach, Buck Showalter will join us tomorrow as we are cooking with Kyle and the Iron Rooster at 3 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be back in studio for that tomorrow. We might have a couple other guests up our sleeve. Dave Trembley mentioned Sam Perlazzo. I don't know, maybe we're going to have Sam join us as well. And we have some other great guests, former players that are in the loop, but we'll save that for a different day. But tomorrow we'll see you back here, and we don't have the music because we have a different soundboard. Did we have anything else
No,
that
I think
we're covering? I know Elias is talking later. Did anything happen move wise that I'm missing before
I've not seen anything move wise at least. Yeah.
Cool. Well, guys, this is it for the show today. Bow. As always, here at the Ryan Ripken Show, have a day, have a night, have a great stinking Tuesday. We will be back tomorrow for a brand new episode. We're cooking with Kyle and the Iron Rooster. Buck Showalter will be joining us virtually. And as always, thank you to Merit Clubs, Hollywood Casino for being two of our greatest sponsors here. We'll see you at the pool here next time. Talk to you soon.